Hi there. 8 days of mass protests, and the mainstream media is still silent. To recap, there is an Iranian uprising happening again. There is a deadly regime trying to crush it again. And there is a point when media silence becomes complicity. 8 days of an historic, widespread call to action against the murderous dictatorship. 8 days of courageous demonstrations across a country that has been terrorized by an Islamic regime for 46 years. 8 days of protesters being killed, jailed, attacked. And most of the mainstream media is still silent. Apparently, nothing to see here, not important enough, move along. There is a point when we have to ask, when does an act of omission become an act of commission? Now, to be clear, Iranians around the world, and sadly inside Iran, are accustomed at this point to a lack of support from the West. For all the platitudes about democracy and human rights, it's quite conspicuous to witness the lack of any outcry when young women and men are fighting in the streets for basic freedom, are being killed by an authoritarian regime that sponsors terrorism around the world, and there's nothing. But what of the so-called newspaper of record, the most important media outlet in the world, the New York Times? 8 days of mass protests in Iran, and the New York Times is mostly silent. Oh, there have been 2 or 3 articles. Till now, none on the front page. The last 2 mostly focused on Trump's tweet. And the latest article minimizes the demonstrations as smaller than 2022 and 2019, quotes Pezeshkian and 2 other spokespeople for the regime, focuses on the protests being mostly about economic unrest, and makes no mention at all of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who seems to have some support since people are chanting his name in the streets. The point is not that the West has to save us, certainly not Western media, but the point is that governments and corporations and power brokers and even populations take their cue from the mainstream media. Still, there still is agenda setting that happens. It is important if the mainstream media is talking about it. So, an Iranian revolution is afoot again. A deadly regime is trying to crush it again. And there is a point when media silence becomes complicity.